The following is intended for a mature audience. Proceed with the understanding that taboo and offensive material will be discussed. The revolution must be non-violent and it must occur in our minds, thus being the evolution we need to survive. The Evolution Revolution Podcast.
Hi, hello. This is the Evolution Revolution podcast on IMN. Today I have a special treat for you. Long time in the making, I have to say. And today I am joined by former Congresswoman, Dr. Cynthia McKinney, and co-founder of the Free Thought Project, Jason Bassler, and editor-in-chief of the Free Thought Project, Matt Savoy. And today we're going to be having a dialogue about censorship. And I think my three guests are seasoned experts on the topic. The Free Thought Project, I think, gained over a million likes on Facebook, and then they were deleted, and they've recreated the page multiple times. So why don't you know your story better than I know your story? So go ahead and tell it, Jason and Matt. But Jason first.
Sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, it was more than 1 million. It was 3.1 million. And that's not including our police accountability page, Police to Police, that also had 1.9 million. A handful of other pages. We estimate around 6 million fans lost altogether. But yeah, it happened as what now has been dubbed the Purge, October 2018. And yeah, at that point, we lost nearly 6 million fans when both Facebook and Twitter both removed us on the same day. Of course, you know, we always hear about people catching bans on Facebook and having their accounts suspended on Twitter. I think it's pretty rare when both Twitter and Facebook on the same day remove your accounts and your pages. So I think that kind of is a special circumstance for us. And you know, I'd like to say that there was nothing going on behind the scenes, but it seems just a little too coordinated for it not to be. So you could draw your own conclusions from that. But as William said, we've been trying to work hard every day since to gain back our audience, which actually hasn't been too difficult. It has in some sense, but because we have built the name of the organization, the Free Thought Project, and Police to Police, our fans just keep coming back. No matter what we do, no matter what they do to us. So that, in a sense, is kind of reassuring. But yeah, we've had 3 different incarnations now with Police to Police, and we're on the 4th, the Free Thought Project 4.0 on Facebook. And every time they take them down, we're just going to continue to make a new one. And like I said, our fans just keep coming because they value this information. This is something that needs to be, a lot of the topics that we cover need to be talked about. There needs to be a platform to discuss these ideas. So I think our audience understands that, and that's why we keep having, you know, people coming back to us. So did I miss anything, Matt?
No, I mean, that's what we're not, they've tried to make us like an unperson like they did with Alex Jones back in 2018 as well, you know, and not that we agree with everything that Alex Jones says. He says a lot of really bad and sometimes racist things. And, but we called that out, you know, we said that if they can come after Alex Jones and they can make him like an unperson, then they can do that to anybody. But the reason we're so resilient is because we have a brand. He has himself, you know, he has InfoWars, but namely he's made himself the brand, which is a lot easier to remove than the idea of InfoWars or anything else like that. So that's why we're able to come back with our brands like Police to Police and the Free Thought Project.
Now, Dr. McKinney, you have been shadow banned on Twitter and Facebook, and your Facebook was pretty much taken away from you for a great amount of time, multiple times. Tell us about that.
Actually, you just caught me because I was a part of Police to Police, and honestly, I just didn't realize that I was missing it. And now I know that I'm missing it, and I know why. So I'm getting ready to get back on Police to Police, and I'm going to join the Free Thought Project. So
Right.
You're picking me back up right now. Yeah, here we are, police the police, you're getting me. So yeah, well, I was locked out of my Facebook page for almost a year. I think it was like 9 months. I was locked out, and they had various reasons that they had given me, but the main one was that they didn't know that I was me. And I could even, despite sending driver's license, passport, didn't matter what I sent to them, I still wasn't me. And so therefore I was locked out. But my son was able to do a little thing and get me back in under a different name. And now I am back on my official page, Cynthia McKinney Official, under my name, thank goodness. But I don't know how long it'll last. Now, the shadow banning with Twitter is what I've received is messages from people saying that I'm supposed to get a notification when you post something and they don't get it. So I guess that's the shadow banning. And I get that all the time though.
I mean, like, I've seen, like, you post the most benign things, like participating in, like, a community race, like, you know, just like you can post, like, a picture of a pie or something, and they'll be like, this image is, you know, it's not, it's too, it's hurtful, it's offensive, it's
Oh, yes. Now, I didn't even count the times that I've been put under that. You know, it's like a shield, and then the person has to click a second time in order to see what the post was, and that happens all the time on Twitter.
It happens to us on Facebook as well. They'll blur images of article thumbnails that we put up there that are like newspaper, like a picture of the newspaper from 50 years ago that we put up there that they ran in the newspaper 50 years ago. But when we try to show that picture on Facebook, the Facebook will blur it out for us. And
Okay, so now I have a question. Oh yeah, there you are. And the Free Thought Project 2.0, right?
4.0.
4.0.
Oh, 4.0. Okay, well now it's not
If you
showing
found
me
2.0, that's impressive. We can't find it.
Okay, well, okay. So now should I join those only, or should I join also, I'm on Twitter now. Should I also join your name?
Yeah, I mean, follow us on all platforms.
Okay.
If you're on Facebook too, join our community group. We have about 30,000 members in our community group as well. So please jump on.
Okay, I will do that next. I'm just doing my Twitter right now. So you
Sure.
say 4.0 as well. Police the Police 4.0.
It's Police the Police 2.0 and the Free Thought Project 2.0 on Twitter, just
On
because
Twitter,
those are.
yeah, not on. I thought you were talking about Facebook. I apologize.
Okay. Okay, great. I've got them, and now you've got me.
Awesome.
So next I'll go to Facebook and I'll do the same thing.
And to speak on what Matt was talking about, the same thing happens a lot of times with videos that we upload, sometimes before they even go out. So they'll be scheduled and they'll be waiting to go out in like an hour or so, and we'll look back at the post and there'll be a blur cover on the video. And we basically know that's like instant death for any type of engagement, because nobody's going to click on that, unfortunately. And that's part of, you know, what we do is we're trying to get people's attention. So a lot of times we're going to use a thumbnail that will grab the reader's interest, or the same thing with the video. And when they blur out and put a blur cover over our posts, it instantly kills engagement. So we've noticed that as well. I guess that's kind of similar to kind of the shadow ban that, you know, we're talking about on Twitter, but Facebook engages it this way.
Yes, I've noticed that as well, that I will post a link and the link will have a preview. But now, you know, if you don't have the preview of the link, then you don't get the viewership. So I've noticed that on my Facebook page, that oftentimes I won't get a preview. But if I post it on my regular page, it doesn't have as many followers, I get a preview. So it's just like that. That's very strange to me as well. And they have all of these tricks that they pull in order to do I'm, to be honest, I'm concerned not just about this, but I'm concerned about a wholesale loss of rights that is occurring now just because of coronavirus. And so I'm appealing, where do we go to get our rights back? And how many rights are we going to lose in order to get a $1,000 check? Maybe keep the check and give me back my rights.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Or just don't take our tax money in the first place at such exorbitant amounts. But
I saw a meme out there. It said, "Give me liberty or give me $1,200." And like as the founding fathers would say, right? But yeah, I would much rather the freedom right now to go out and earn $1,200 and to be locked down, and lose out on far more than that.
That's right. That's right.
I think that with regard to the COVID-19 situation, I think anybody claiming themselves an authority on the issue is just full of it. It's full of it. And it's something that should be freely discussed, but it's not being. It's being censored. Any point is being censored or being messed with online.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you're right, because they've got these the little subtitle, not on Twitter but on Facebook. They've got the little subtitle right underneath every post that tells if it's got COVID-19 in it, then it tells you to go to WHO or to go to CDC. Well, those are the institutions that lie to you. So those are the last places I want to go. I want to go to the independent researchers who are awake and understand what this moment actually comprises. I'm still looking for patient zero, and I'm still looking for ground zero. And CDC nor the WHO is going to tell me that.
Yeah, neither do they have the best track records, as you mentioned. So yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, I too am concerned about this, Cynthia. It seems like the liberty movement, any progress that we've made in the past 10 years has kind of been erased in the past few months now. And it just kind of makes me wonder, where do we go from here?
Well,
So
we got September 11th, and right after September 11th, we had the Patriot Act.
Right.
And then, of course, wholesale surveillance. Well, we've got the surveillance state now, but wholesale surveillance of average, ordinary folks just ensued with the excuse that, we got to prevent another September 11th happening. And now what we're seeing is the remainder of those rights, they are being constricted for coronavirus, yet we don't know. There's so much that we don't know. And at the same time, believe me, the Congress has not yet repealed the Patriot Act. So we can't count on even our elected officials to take care of our constitutional rights. And this is a very precarious moment. We've got to have people who are awake, who are paying attention. And then, honestly, we can't rely on people who have already sold out to give us back our rights. We're going to have to run for Jason, I'm looking at you, because, we need people like you to run for office.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I know that Jason's material seems to be very anti-voting in general. I mean, the Free Thought Project's material in general seems to be very anti-voting.
Well, I can understand being anti-voting if you don't have anything to vote for. But if Jason were a candidate in an as an independent or with an independent party, then of course I have something to vote for. And a whole lot of, 6 million people also have something to vote for? I think you have a built-in constituency that ought to be taken to the next level. There's nothing like state power. Once you have it, you are able to then take your values, as long as that you don't get co-opted, to take your values into that institution and hopefully change the institution rather than change yourself.
Sure. Yeah. It's definitely a loaded topic, and I'm sure we could veer this conversation towards that and talk about the benefits of voting in the state and all that as well, and the disadvantages, of course. But yeah, I'm right there with you, Cynthia. You know, they said they had to spy on us to protect us from terrorism, and yet we've seen a number of, you know, mass shootings and terrorist acts that they haven't been able to stop. So I'm kind of wondering, you know, and we know that the state in general is kind of incompetent when it comes to a lot of these things, whether they're actually being sincere when they try to talk about protecting us or not, if there is some kind of bigger plan in place. But, you know, either way, it seems kind of like a lost cause in some sense, as far as I'm concerned about voting. But you know, I certainly hear what you're saying, and we certainly do need to take our rights back. I'm just not sure if I'm convinced that's going to happen through the voting apparatus.
Right now, it seems like we're powerless to stop what's going on. You know what we saw over the weekend in Rhode Island. You know, we saw the governor put the state on lockdown and activate the National Guard and police, who were going door to door, violating the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, and like to hunt down citizens from New York. And they weren't just like fleeing the state of New York to go to some relative's house or a hotel or something like that. They're going to homes that they own in Rhode Island. And the cops were literally, in the military, were literally hunting down these people to force quarantine them, arrest them, and they faced up to a year in jail. I mean, and this, no one said anything about it. You know, like maybe a couple of congressmen, maybe Thomas Massey or Justin Amash or one of these guys that, or Tulsi Gabbard, maybe one of them said something about it. But you know, they're using this coronavirus fear right now. And don't get me wrong, we're not saying that the coronavirus is not dangerous and we shouldn't be paying attention. We shouldn't be social distancing ourselves. But the idea of suspending the Constitution in this manner is unprecedented. This is far more than we went like after 9/11. You know, no, they weren't going door to door after 9/11. They did on small scales, you know, when we had the Boston bombing and such. But like, this is an entire state, and now we have other states. Like, I'm in Louisiana, we have Texas, and we have Florida, you know, to the east and the west of us, and they're doing the same thing. They're pulling over cars for the simple fact that they have a Louisiana license plate on, because we have a large outbreak here in New Orleans. And so they're pulling over cars. It's a complete violation of your Fourth Amendment right. Because you have a Louisiana license plate doesn't mean you don't live in the state, or you haven't, you know, that does not give police officers probable cause to detain or stop anybody. And yet that's what's happening. It even has the ACLU, you know, up in arms, you know, talking about this thing. So yeah, there's something that needs to be done. We need to call these people out. We need to hold them to the fire for these rampant violations of our constitutional rights. And as soon as that started to happen in Florida and Texas and in Rhode Island, Trump got on the air and said, well, maybe we should do something on a federal level. You know, this, I was like, wow, you're gonna lock down and grant, you know, police and military the ability to go to anybody's door in anybody's state and across the country. That doesn't sound like the land of the free to me.
Well, it seems that what they're doing is they're trying to accustom us to seeing the military on our streets. Now, of course, you know, I was one of those persons, I got into trouble for asking who was it that put black water on the streets of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. You remember that, Matt?
Yes,
So,
I do.
I mean, that was like horrible, and it was an affront. Okay, so now we don't have the private militia. We've got the United States military on the streets, and it's not normal. And there was something called Posse Comitatus, but you know, it has been basically eroded and abandoned for ever since the initiation of the drug war, so-called drug war. And so now we're just gonna get used to it. No, what I teach my students is that, well, it's also an idea borrowed from Jacques Rancière, the French philosopher. And basically what he says is that real politics don't occur until people say no. Those people who he characterizes them as the unseen, the unheard, the unwritten, all that mass of people out there, which is us, we the people, is us. When we say no, then that's a moment for real politics. So it is incumbent upon those of us who don't feel as if we are powerless. I know that we are powerful, but we are not powerful until we say no. And the moment we say no, that is when all of that power accrues to us that we say we have. And then, of course, we force the state to reckon with us. Now, of course, they're going to do whatever they want to do for as long as they want to do it, and they can get away with doing it. But what I say is that we have to say no. How do we do that? It could be something as simple initially as wearing a yellow vest. And of course, when the yellow vest went out there, I said, I got to do this. There's someone who has been on me for like about 5 or 6 years now, saying we need to call a general strike in the US. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe it's showing up at our state capitals with AK-47s or what, not AK-47s, but what, AR, what, I don't even know what those guns are, but you know, and maybe it's that, or my father used to show up with normal on the grounds of the Georgia State Capitol and, you know, just have a smoke out. But whatever it is, we've got to say no, and we need to do it publicly and collectively.
Sure. I agree with that. If I could jump in here completely, and this is a new phenomenon, right? Of course, there was the swine flu, the bird flu, Ebola. We've seen diseases and viruses come and go, but this is somewhat of a new occurrence for the American people in modern society. So there is certainly a lot of fear, and nobody really knows what to do. I was actually just talking to one of my good friends in the Liberty Movement, Luis Fernando Mises, about this a couple days ago. And it's like, well, what do? We need to do something because they're continuing to trample our rights. And yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm afraid that this is acclimating the American people to just becoming normalized. And who's to say this isn't going to happen again next year if there's some kind of scare, you know? So I think it's important that, yeah, we do the same and we try to organize. And like you said, Cynthia, say no, try to actually assert our rights and push back a little bit. And I don't see any of that happening right now because I think people are so scared that they're almost willing to give up their liberties for the illusion of security, you know. And of course, there's that Benjamin Franklin quote. I don't even need to say it because I know we're all thinking it right now. But I mean, that's the problem is I don't think we're organized enough right now to know what to do. And the paranoia and the fear is so high that I think even if we try to, within the next couple of weeks, the general public would probably look at us as being crazy because they do believe right now that the government's responding to this in an effective way.
So I just want to address the point from earlier. You know, I love the thing going on right now. Very good energy happening right now. But I do want to address the point from earlier about Cynthia's suggestion to Jason that he run for office. I swear, I went crazy when she asked that. But like, no, like Adam Kokesh, I think he's more anti-state power than I am, and he is running for office. You know, like, I just wanted to make that comment. It's yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and Adam's you know, very intelligent guy, and I wish him the best for that. It seems like the libertarian movement is pretty fractured in the sense that, yeah, half of us believe in voting, and the other half of us don't believe in voting. So it doesn't seem like we could ever really gain much momentum.
I mean, I'm not a registered libertarian. I am a registered green. I do describe myself as a libertarian. I would, you know, I like liberty. So,
Sure.
But I just, you know, I've lost I've lost a great deal of interest in the green primary. I'm kind of in your boat, Jason, about the voting thing. You know, I don't know if I'm gonna vote. We'll see. when the opportunity presents itself. I don't know.
I think there's utility there on a local level, but what's that saying? The first step to changing the system is to stop complying with it. And I feel like at this point, like all hope is almost gone when it comes to having any type of legitimate voting. And even when the right people do become elected and in charge, there's still a moral dilemma there with the 51% having to dictate or dictating what the 49% of people could do through the state force with um, enforcing laws and whatnot. So it's tricky, and like I said, we can talk about that if that's what you guys want to talk about. I would love to go into more of that theory, but
I mean, I want to really just stick more with the censorship discussion, but it
Sure.
was a great thing to talk about for sure.
Well, I think I can tie both of those in together, and we can look at the way that the political machine, the establishment media, and the political establishment work together to like squeeze out those people who run for political office who try to change the system. I mean, we could just look at Tulsi Gabbard, for example. As soon as she started making some good numbers in the polls, she was deemed a Russian agent, and a Russian asset. It was trending on Twitter. Hillary Clinton came out against her and called her a Russian asset. And this tends to happen with anybody who challenges the status quo. And
I mean, it happened to Dr. McKinney over here.
Right.
she won. She won that race and was cheated out of it. Cheated out of that term. So, but yeah, go ahead and what do you think, Dr. McKinney?
Oh, I was just tying it into the censorship angle there. A lot of these people are just censored out of existence. Their tweets don't reach as many people. Their social media accounts are just they're shadow banned just like everybody else. Look at Andrew Yang. He challenged the establishment, and his Twitter and Facebook were all but non-existent. And they trend every now and again when his thousands and tens of thousands of followers, however many followers he had, would work diligently to get a tag to trend, but nothing at all like the establishment candidates would get.
he had a lot of momentum too.
He did.
And yeah, so.
Well, UBI draws a lot of eyes.
Good points.
Well, he had enough momentum for my mother to pay attention to him, and my mom basically hates politics because she's seen it too much up close. But she really liked Andrew Yang, so apparently, yeah. But still, the media. I think what we have to understand is that we are the media. And so if we go back and we look at the COINTELPRO papers, that's my big thing, because it was sort of like the moment of truth for me, reading those papers and then understanding how systemic the oppression really was, because it wasn't just the CIA and the FBI, it was the media as well. And so the FBI could call up their media friends and say, okay, we need this headline, and they got it. So the media is a part of that whole deep state problem. And so we've got a lot of erasure that needs to take place, or draining the swamp, however you want to say it. But the only way it's going to really happen is for us to do it. And you can't, it's like my mother, now that I'm at home. So, I was away for like the last 5 years teaching in Asia. And so I come home, my mother is very accustomed to the house being exactly the way she wants it, right? And then I go outside and I bring in some pollen, and there's pollen on the carpet, and, so it's not going to get vacuumed by itself. So the swamp isn't going to get drained by itself. We have to be the ones who are actively engaged with the vacuum cleaner to drain the swamp. And so if you say, okay, well, they're going to do what they want to do, or, my participation, my vote doesn't count, then figure out another way to participate. But participate nonetheless. We have to participate, and we have to find a way that makes us comfortable to say no.
That's what we're trying to do with the Free Thought Project, is push this information out and light a fire under people's butts, you know, and get them out there and like, hey, this isn't okay, you know. Police going door to door looking for people that might be seeking refuge from a deadly pandemic and property that they own is okay. They don't need. I mean, it's not okay. It's okay for that person to be in there. It's not okay for these, you know, for these people to do that. Like this guy, when I wrote an article about those raids happening over the weekend in Rhode Island, and a guy commented on my tweet that I had put out saying, this article is designed to inflame and incite anger. And he's like, you shouldn't follow the Free Thought Project for that. I'm like, exactly. I wrote this article to incite anger and to incite rage. You should be angry that this is going on. You know, I put that on in the Twitter thread. I'm like, this, you need to be angry at this. This is why I wrote that article in that tone. And you need to be angry when this thing is happening.
And just go ahead.
No.
And just to add on to that as well, you know, a lot of times we get the same, like Matt was saying, we get these messages in our inboxes or replies in the comments and stuff, and people asking us like why we aren't doing more to lead a protest or something like that, you know. And it's like, man, like we need, and anybody listening to this and watching this right now, please like take this to heart, because we work 7 days a week. Me and Matt are tireless workers. We're constantly trying to put out the most important information we could find, not to mention the memes, not to mention the videos, and the whole process of just distributing this information on social media. All this stuff takes time. So we literally work 7 days a week. We need people to step up when they read this information and do something. You know, we can't just be desensitized. We can't just acclimate to this being the normal, because this isn't normal. Like we need people to stand up for liberty. So, you know, I mean, we're trying our best, and we do try to do some extracurricular, you know, things to draw people in to network and bring like minds together. But at the same time, like we need people to step up. We need people to actually be putting their own effort, their own energy, their own passion to make these things happen, to put boots on the ground, to distribute this information, to protest, and, you know, any way they think is going to be valuable. So yeah, I just wanted to say that as well, because it can't just all be on the people who are the quote leaders, you know. Like we do need people who aren't even involved with this scene to get involved and really participate.
Well, one of the things that I would like to request of the people who view this video would be to, if they have some ideas about how we can do a 21st century protest, or how we can do a 21st century resistance movement, which is what I really would rather engage in, then let us know, because I'm looking for good ideas. Now I have to live, and that has necessitated me leaving the United States. But say I stay here. If I remain here, then I want to be involved. I want to be a part of the solution. And I don't want to be a part of yesterday's solution. I want to be a part of tomorrow's solution. So if there are good ideas out there, hey, put them this way so that we can then engage differently, because I agree we need to engage differently. And the technology of oppression is so much different, more different now than it was back then, that maybe we need new technologies of resistance.
They exist. We just don't use them. I mean, the Free Thought Project is on 30 of them. You know, I mean, maybe that's an exaggeration, but we're on more than a dozen different technological competitions to this mass censorship realm. We're on Minds, we're on MeWe, we're on Steam It, we're on all these different platforms that are uncensored, and that are the answer to this controlled paradigm of, and the controlled conversations that is this establishment social media and media network. So yeah, they exist. It's just up to us to use them.
Well, now you're right about that, and then and there's the but. Okay, so I am on Minds, Gab, MeWe, you know, Steam It. So I've done that as well. I've tried to do that as well. it's just that I'm over there by myself. You're over there by yourself. And I've got 100,000 over here on Facebook that, you know, maybe they don't get the message, but maybe it's a dummy number, but you know, and I've got 30,000 over here or 40,000 or whatever over there on Twitter. So it's like now, and I have like 500 on Steam it, you know, so I just,
No,
you know.
That brings up a great point, and yeah, that's something we've been saying ever since last year. We actually had like an alternative media summit out in Houston, where we organized about 50 different independent journalists, influencers, and that was kind of the conclusion we came to, was that we all need to start utilizing sites like Minds and get that to be our network. And that way we know at least we're getting that information out there, we're distributing it to people who care, who are interested in trying to make change. But the problem is, like you mentioned, is just there's not enough people adopting it and sticking with it. Now, on the flip side of that, like you said, there is always a but. Facebook and Twitter, that's where a lot of the mainstream normies are, who we are trying to plant seeds with and reach. So it's important that we stay on those sites as well and continue to plant seeds and try to motivate people. But we also need to have a home base of sorts and a place that we know we're going to be able to confidently distribute this information and not have it be throttled or shadow banned or any of that other stuff. So yeah, please, anybody watching this, listening right now, get on MeWe, get on Minds, get on Float.app. There's quite a few. There's Gab, as Cynthia said, and just utilize them. You know, it doesn't mean you have to stop using Facebook, but every day just post a couple things, like some people's posts, and you know, start networking. And also on top of that, you know, it is obviously very important to stay up to date with all this news and information and to hone in your knowledge about these topics. But without action, nothing's ever going to change. So we also need to keep in mind that we need to be taking action with this stuff. And it's not just about sharing information, sharing funny memes.
It's as the saying goes, everybody's on Facebook because everybody's on Facebook. And I think it's time we rob some power from these Silicon Valley tech giants.
Yeah.
Bring them a little humility. They don't run without us. They don't run without us.
Sure.
If Hollywood or somebody big, like somebody big in Hollywood, would start like just a massive push to move people to Minds or something like that, it could happen in a couple of weeks. You know,
Right.
you could have everybody, and like if Minds could somehow implement like a big massive import where you could just drop your whole entire profile, because no one wants to leave behind their decade of shit that they've built up on Facebook. You know, so if there was an easy way to move all that over, or because you can download your whole Facebook history. If Minds could somehow implement a way to get that imported in, you can just start using it right then and there, you know, with the right amount of influencers behind that. Unfortunately, we're not big enough, you know, like we have millions of followers and millions of fans, but we're not big enough to get that out into the mainstream media to where it would, you know, push hundreds of millions of people off of Facebook, which is what it's going to take.
And you know, here's the other thing is that our concerted attention will force the others. Now, we might not agree with the spin that they put on it, but it will force mainstream media to at least cover what it is that we're doing. So I accept the admonishment, and because I basically dropped out of the others, but I at least will go back. I've got the accounts there. I will at least go back and continue to post. What, Matt and Jason, would you consider to be your home base that's not Facebook and Twitter?
We have our second biggest following on Minds. So I would say probably Minds. We're also friends with the co-creator of Minds, Bill Ottman. So in that sense, we're able to actually communicate with him and tell him like, hey, this is what we need to thrive. This is what we would like to see for new users to start adopting this, and actually share ideas with him. So I would say probably Minds, because not only, do we have that inside scoop just for us personally, but they seem to have a lot of overlap with a lot of the values and principles that we, find important. So they're crypto integrated, they're open source, they're decentralized. They have a lot of good things going in the right direction. So I would say, they just need more users. They need more funding, which would probably come with more users, so
Yeah.
I would say probably Minds.
Well, I don't have
Okay.
a Minds account, so I'll start one. I'm going to look into it.
Yes.
I mean, Cynthia already got me started on Proton Mail instead of Gmail.
Sure. Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's going to come down to, is just starving these tech titans. And and like Matt said, that it can be done. It just needs to have a shift. And I think enough people are unhappy and disgruntled with Facebook through all the bad publicity they've gotten over the past couple years now. And as far back as to 2016, when the election happened. So I think people are ready. They just might not know. And I'm talking about normies here, the mainstreamers, but I just don't think they're aware of a platform like Minds. And of course, it takes some integrating. It takes kind of getting used to. There's some features and functions that are a little bit different, but I think ultimately, like I was saying, it's more aligned with our vision.
Yes, yes. And so now, Matt, did you make a suggestion directly to Atman about being able to, what do you call it?
Oh, to import it all,
Move
like the whole profile like that. I
import,
mean,
yeah.
we've talked about that. He's really receptive to outside, input, and I mean, he wants it. We had a meeting with him a couple of weeks ago. He just implemented a way to, like a WordPress type format where you can post blogs and articles. And so we've been testing that out with him. And
Well, not only just post them, but make money from them, right?
Right. It's actually paying a CPM, so you can actually monetize it, sort of like Steam, or Steam it, yeah. But man, back in the day, Steam it was pretty hot. that took off well because people were making a lot of money on it. Because if you had the right audience, you could turn some Bitcoin. You could turn some words into Bitcoin rather quickly. And man, with that crypto crash though, back at the beginning of last year, that's when all that went to hell. But man, Steam it was actually, had their developers been a little bit more adaptive and willing to change, like sort of like Bill Altman, then I think that they'd still be a viable source today, but they kept it rigid and featureless, and that, it just didn't attract a lot of people. But it was attracting a lot of people because a lot of people were making money. They were putting out, so it made the content grow, and then they didn't adapt to keep those users on there when the money stopped flowing. So,
and I think that's the biggest problem, is that Facebook really is at the tip of the spear when it comes to the social media user experience. They have so many different features. They have the Facebook Marketplace, they have Facebook Live, they have Facebook groups, they have Facebook pages, they have events, they have fundraisers. And I think because they're always innovating and kind of keeping new features that are popping up that people find utility in, then that's why people stick with them, even though there is a ton of bad press about them, even though Facebook continues to spy on us and sell our privacy information, our private information. So I think that's what's going to take. But unfortunately, some of these smaller social media platforms just can't compete with that because they don't have the billions in funding.
I think we can even fall into that category of still using it, knowing we're being spied upon. With this software that we're using right now for this podcast, we're using Zoom software, and they were found to have been selling users' private information to Facebook.
Yeah.
And here we are, we're on it. This is how hard it is to break free from this paradigm. Right. And that's a perfect illustration that I'm not going to sit here and say we're perfect angels that don't participate in this. We're doing it right now. And that's how difficult it is to change this. So it's an uphill battle for sure.
So what is the alternative to Zoom? Because I have been recommending Zoom just because it was encrypted, and I'm trying to search out for even though I understand all of the problems associated with that. But so is there an alternative to Zoom that is like more in line with our values?
Mine has a video conferencing feature. I've yet to use it, but I do know it is up and available on Minds. So that's one option. Of course, yeah, I don't know if it's as easy as a process of just clicking on a link and installing an app on your phone or your PC, but that is an option. That's at least one that comes to mind.
There's WebEx and there's GoToMeeting too. As of yet, Google Meetings hasn't been caught spying on us yet either. You know, so there's a bunch of. I didn't even actually hear of Zoom until this the COVID-19 outbreak. My daughter's school is using it to maintain like she meets with her class like 3 times a week. So I didn't even hear of Zoom until then. I mean, I've used it. I just didn't understand. I didn't know what it was until recently. But yeah, there's a lot of other ones that have complete end-to-end encryption, unlike Zoom has, but which is WebEx is one of the good ones. I'm not sure about their user friendliness. You know, this one you just click a link and it's done, or you enter that meeting ID. But the same with Google Hangouts, it's the same. You know, you can click a link and you're in the meeting. So, yeah, there's options.
Yeah, but it's still Google.
Yeah, you're right. Oh gosh. Don't be evil, Cynthia.
Google's X motto.
How did they change their motto from that? I mean, this is how overt this shit is.
Yeah,
is that these people, it used to be "Don't be evil," but man, that's hard to do this day and age. So we're gonna go ahead and get rid of that motto, throw that out the window.
Yeah, it's about time. It's about time to start doing some evil.
No kidding.
Well, I mean, you know what? I'm going to do this because this is the book that is, let me see, when was this book? I'm working on another one now, but I think this is 2018. And so basically it took advantage of what our president had to say about certain countries. And I said, well, let's provide a service to the people of the United States and the world so that we can remind folks just how these countries came to be like they are.
Sure.
And William and I were just talking about how the foreword was written by Mike Gravel, who is a real hero. We need another Mike Gravel now. As I look at what is going on with Julian Assange and the plight of someone who told the truth and let the people of the world know what all their governments were doing. But we in the United States, our government is most culpable. And so therefore we really need to know what our government is doing. And there it was. And now he's been given a death sentence because he's deathly ill. So Mike Gravel went to the floor of the Senate when he served 1 term in the United States Senate, senator from Alaska, went to the floor and read the Pentagon Papers. And because he read those papers, it was very clear about the Vietnam War and all of the wars that the United States has engaged in. So we need another Senator Gravel type person who will go to the floor and who will do something so that we can save Julian Assange's life and at the same time stop creating S-hole countries.
Yeah, let's not forget about Julian Assange during all this hysteria and chaos, because yeah, he's still sitting in a cage. So, and,
you know, and I had a Gravel on this show a while back ago. You know, so it's but yeah. Anyway, Jason.
Oh, I was just gonna, if we're showing off books here, I just figured this one would probably be appropriate for this conversation. It's called Unassailable. The author, Mark Jeffotik, I'm not sure how to say his last name, but I'll just put it up a little bit closer. It's basically how to preserve your online presence without being censored. And it actually covers, we're mentioned in here, the Free Thought Project, Police the Police. He covered our story when we had our accounts removed. So if any of your audience are looking for a little reading material, it's a good size. I'd say almost 200 pages. So definitely check that out. That could be helpful and useful.
I didn't see the name of it though.
Unassailable.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Pretty cool artwork as well. But yeah, check that out. It's on Amazon. I know you could purchase it there. Luckily, he sent us a couple free copies. But
when it comes to Congress,
Okay.
people talking about Julian Assange, that's very rare. You know, we had Tulsi Gabbard was the only presidential candidate talking about it, and look where that got her. She's a Russian asset now because she wanted to free a man who's being persecuted for journalism. But there's very few people in Washington D.C. that even though a lot of them have politically benefited from WikiLeaks information, they're all still too scared to challenge the establishment and actually support them. So it's a shame. It really is.
Yeah, so I don't know where else to take this conversation. How long we've been on?
About an hour.
Okay. So I think this is a pretty good point to wrap it up. But I am so grateful for the three of you for joining me today. And I look forward to having you on again whenever.
thank you,
Well,
William.
Have any closing words for us, all three of you?
And I'm really happy to meet Jason and Matt. I mean, well, you know, I'm happy to meet you too, William. But I'm really happy to establish a connection with Matt and Jason. And you know, here it is. I didn't even realize that I was missing the police sort of the site on Facebook and on Twitter. But I'm here now and I'm with you guys. You just tell me and I'll be there.
That's so awesome, Cynthia. Thank you. You've been featured in several articles that I've written over the years, especially like the speech you gave on the floor against DynCorp and the human trafficking and all that. It's
Yes.
yeah, you're a big inspiration in my life is what got me into this years ago. So yeah, it's very awesome to meet you and have this conversation. I appreciate that.
So
Absolutely.
thank you, William, for bringing us all together.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much so, William. This has
Thanks,
been like
man.
I was just checking our messages, and we talked about in November to have this podcast, and look, it finally came to fruition on April 1st. So,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think some of that is probably my doing. I know I canceled a couple times just due to circumstances with my schedule and whatnot. I have a newborn here, and I think last time my mom was visiting and I had a sick cat. I mean, yeah, it's been crazy. But nonetheless, it is a pleasure to speak with you, Cynthia and William. And thank you for coordinating this. It is important to have these types of conversations. And yeah, and anyone watching, listening, please take what we said to heart. Like, we need to start making change. We need to regain some ground here with a lot of this loss of liberty and rights that's happening right now as we speak. So it's one thing just to be up on all this information. It's another thing to actually take action and make things happen. So please, by all means, whatever that looks like for you, if you're a poet, if you're a singer, a journalist, if you enjoy organizing people to protest, whatever that means, we need it all. We need it all on our side. So please.
Thank
That's
you, the three of you. Peace out.
Okay.
Be well for now.
awesome. Goodbye, y'all.
Nice meeting you, Matt and Jason.
Same.
Likewise, Cynthia. Thank you.
Okay.